व्हाट इज एक्सेलरेशन। ठीक है, तो अब हम बात करते हैं, लेट्स अगेन गो बैक टू माई बुगाटी। ठीक है, बुगाटी में थोड़ी पतली हो गई है, आई डोंट नो व्हाई। अच्छा है। सो अब लेट्स से आपने पॉइंट ए पर आप क्रॉस कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, आप भागते हुए आ रहे हैं, यूर ड्राइविंग, यूर क्रूजिंग द कार एट पॉइंट ए। मैंने आपकी स्पीड नोट की, यू इज बेस्ट टू शो इनिशियल स्पीड। ठीक है, मैं लिख देता हूँ कि यू इज इनिशियल स्पीड ऑफ द कार, इनिशियल स्पीड। ठीक है, एंड एट लेट्स से पॉइंट बी, जब मैंने आपकी स्पीडोमीटर से स्पीड नोट की गाड़ी की, बुगाटी की और बुगाटी, ठीक है, इससे टायर बड़े हो गए। लेट्स से नॉट, आई डोंट नो व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इन कार। ठीक है, समथिंग एबनॉर्मल। सो इसमें लेट्स से इट वाज 10 मीटर पर सेकंड, राइट। एंड लेट्स से उसको मैं दे दूं कि t1 वाज 0 सेकंड। इस पॉइंट पे मैंने स्टार्ट किया नोट करना टाइम, स्पीड को। ठीक है, एट दिस पॉइंट बी मेरे फाइनल वेलोसिटी वाज लेट्स से 20 मीटर and your final time was let's say 2 seconds. ठीक है, so v is your final speed, final speed। ठीक है जी, and what is your t? t is your time taken। ठीक है, अब if I want to define acceleration in a single sentence is basically this is also correct, then write it down, okay, acceleration, the change in velocity per unit time, or which I suggest is that acceleration, capital A, spelling mistake नहीं करनी मैंने, I want to grammatically and spelling must correct since I have the judge over here, judges over here. So acceleration is the, तो रेट ऑफ चेंज हमने याद कर लिया बैठ के, सो इट्स एवरीथिंग सेम, स्पीड के लिए, वेलोसिटी के लिए, एक्सेलेरेशन के लिए, तो इस पोटैटो पराठो। ठीक है, रेट ऑफ चेंज ऑफ वेलोसिटी। ठीक है, तो आप एक स्टेप बाय स्टेप बढ़े आ रहे हैं। So you can just see the formula over here. It's change in velocity upon time taken. And if I want to write down the formula for this, formula of acceleration, which हम करेंगे discuss in the next class. So acceleration क्या है हमारे पास? It's change in velocity divided by time taken. ठीक है, and change in velocity क्या है हमारे पास? आपके पास initial speed क्या आती है? Is u, u is your initial speed. ठीक है, and v is your final speed. ठीक है, and t आपको पता है, it's the time taken। तो अब आप हाउ डू यू फाइंड द चेंज, यू जस्ट डू फाइनल माइनस इनिशियल। ठीक है, एक्सक्यूज मी, मुझे कॉल आ रही है। Here Hamza is playing on the screen. Okay, so how do you find the change? You find the change by doing final minus initial, right? So it's going to be v minus u divided by, ठीक है, this is the formula for acceleration। अच्छा यार, आपको फॉर्मूला याद करने हैं ना, तो इसके लिए वी हैव अ टेक्निक कॉल्ड ट्रायंगल मेथड, राइट। तो अगर आपको याद करना है, लेट्स से फॉर द स्पीड, इमेजिन करो कि ये ट्रायंगल है आपके पास, एंड ये आपके पास है स्पीड। ठीक है, दिस इज योर डिस्टेंस, दिस इज योर टाइम। सो व्हाट डू यू सी ओवर हियर? You see, if you want to find speed, you see कि distance and time are basically up and down। ठीक है, so if they up and down, you want to divide distance upon time। ठीक है, if you see कि if you want to find distance, you can see कि speed and time are left and right, so they are side by side, they are neighbors, so we're going to multiply। If you want to find time, you can see कि speed and distance, the speed and distance and speed are up and down, so we're going to divide। ठीक है, similarly you can do this for the velocity। वेलोसिटी आपके यहाँ पे आ गई, डिस्प्लेसमेंट आपकी एस बार होती है, टाइम, तो सिमिलरली फॉर वेलोसिटी इट्स डिस्प्लेसमेंट अपॉन टाइम। ठीक है, यू वांट टू फाइंड डिस्प्लेसमेंट, इट इज वेलोसिटी टाइम्स टाइम, यू वांट टू फाइंड टाइम, इट्स डिस्प्लेसमेंट अपॉन वेलोसिटी। ठीक है, दैट्स द ट्रायंगल, लेट मी राइट इट डाउन ओवर हियर, द ट्रायंगल। ठीक है, सो नाउ आई जस्ट वांट टू स्टॉप ओवर हियर, बिकॉज के बाद uh, ये एग्जांपल जस्ट देख लेते हैं, फिर छुट्टी करते हैं। ठीक है, जस्ट टू यू विजुअलाइज के हाउ व्हाट इज एक्सेलरेशन। ठीक है, तो आई एम गोइंग टू प्लॉट दिस ग्राफ। ठीक है, आई एम गोइंग टू प्लॉट दिस ग्राफ। आपको स्पीड दी हुई है और टाइम दिया हुआ है। ठीक है, तो आपको स्पीड दी हुई है इन मीटर पर सेकंड, और आपको टाइम दिया हुआ है इन सेकंड्स। ठीक है, सो वी हैव 1 2 3 4 5 6 तक। ठीक है, तो 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and it's going to be 30. ठीक है, so I'm going to mark it correctly कि 30 पे पहुंच जाऊंगा. I'm going to use a scale of 5. ठीक है, 5. Nice. I'm going to use a scale of, let me just clear this out. थोड़ा सा बड़ा करता हूँ ताकि it's going till, so its velocity, its speed in meter per second. So it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Voila. It's 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Let's plot the forms. 0 पे 0 है. Let me just use another color. 0 पे it's 0, 1 पे it's 5, 2 पे it's 10, 3 पे it's 15. ठीक है. 4 पे it's 20, 20 here. And 5 पे it's 25 here. Then it's it's coming out to be almost a straight line, right? It's almost a straight line. Imagine कि अगर मैं it ones बिल्कुल correctly scale होती तो it would be a straight line. ठीक है. अब let's take 2 points on the line. ठीक है. It's point A और मैंने ये point B ले लिया. ठीक है. Point A के मेरे पास 1,5 है. ठीक है. And point B के मेरे पास it's basically this ना, ये देखिए. This is the y value, this is the x value, and इसकी this is the y value, this is the x value. तुम points निकालो. ठीक है. तो इट्स एक्स ऑलवेज एक्स समा हुआ है. ठीक है. तो पॉइंट बी के मेरे पास इट्स 5,25. सो अभी हम इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास वी विल स्टडी के इफ यू नो स्लोप क्या होता है, इट्स द ग्रेडियंट, राइट? हाउ डू यू फाइंड द ग्रेडियंट ऑफ अ लाइन? इज चेंज इन वाई अपॉन चेंज इन एक्स, राइट? तो सिमिलरली यहाँ पे क्या है, ऑन द वाई एक्सिस इट्स the velocity, so it's coming out to be change in velocity upon change in time. So what is this formula linking towards? It's acceleration, right? So acceleration क्या होती है? Change in velocity upon change in time. So you can find acceleration from the graph of velocity time graph using the slope. ठीक है, तो slope निकालते हैं बैठ के. So your acceleration coming out to be change in y क्या है बस 25 minus 5 by 2 minus 7. What is my change in x? It's 5 minus 1. ठीक है. So what is the acceleration coming out to be? It's 20 upon 4. So it's coming out to be 5 meter per second square. It's positive 5 meter per second square. कि आपकी गाड़ी जो भी है ट्रॉली और बाइक, it's accelerating with the rate of 5 meter per second square. So if you're given velocity against time graph, so if you find the gradient, what is gradient? It's just change in y upon change in x. Y पे what do we have? Velocity. By x पे what do we have? Time. So change in velocity upon change in time क्या होती है? It's acceleration. Therefore the slope of the velocity against time graph give you acceleration, right? अच्छा जी. अब जो हमारा next topic in line है, that is pretty much interesting. That is the thing which on which O level students are pretty weak. That is how to read graphs, how to explain graphs, right? You know how to put the formulas, put in the values, get the answer, get full marks, right? If I ask you, reduce by graph क्या बता रहा है क्वेश्चन के बारे में, you will stuck, right? So now I'm going to talk about some different type of graphs, how to read them, how to understand them, what is going on in the motion. ठीक है, we have speed time graphs, then we have distance line graphs. ठीक है, then we have how do we basically now backtrack. आपके पास अगर acceleration time graph किया हुआ है, आप उससे velocity time graph कैसे बनाएंगे? If you're giving velocity time graph, आप उससे displacement time graph कैसे बनाएंगे? So how do you go back, right? We have also learned that, and then I'm going to test you guys over here. Then I derive some equations. ठीक है, the equation of motion which you're going to use in solving your numericals. We have 2 questions which we're going to derive today, inshallah, and then a practical question to test you guys, and then some discussion upon free fall motion क्या होता है, some famous experiment of Galileo Galilei, ठीक है, and some surprising results which you will see in a while, and then a homework. ठीक है, and then last thing which we're going to talk about, okay, if let's say you have a tennis ball. I don't have a tennis ball right now,
सर
but
होमवर्क क्या है?
अभी होमवर्क तो अभी बाकी है, अभी रुक जाओ, अभी तो बहुत टाइम है. होमवर्क विल बी दिस, एन एक्सपेरिमेंट, राइट? इसके अंदर कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं, यू वांट टू आंसर दोस. ओके,
सही है.
then you have this graph. Let me just imagine कि you have a bottle over here. ठीक है, तो पीना, I should not drink, but ये पड़ी हुई थी बैग मेरे. Let's imagine if I drop this bottle over here. If I take let's say multiple flash photos of this falling motion, ठीक है, let's say after 1 millisecond में इसकी multiple pictures लूँ, so I will have a motion के पहले scenario में यहाँ पे होगी, then फिर यहाँ पे होगी, then it will be over here. So the distance of separation would be increasing, right? So ये ग्राफ इन लोगों ने प्लॉट किया हुआ है. So it's an increasing graph. We will study के what are increasing graphs, what are decreasing graphs. ठीक है, in a while. This is what is planned for today. Hopefully I'm gonna finish at least 80% of it today. बाकी remaining will be done in the next class, inshallah. So bear up. ठीक है, take out your copies, calculator, pen, and your attention, right? Let's start with the first scenario, which is the speed time graph, right? We have discussed के speed time graphs क्या होते हैं, ठीक है? So let's start. Let me choose an interesting color for you guys. And to keep equality between women and men, I'm gonna choose blue. Okay. Now I'm going towards machoism. Okay. Okay. So speed time graph, right? So what is speed time graphs? On your x-axis you have time, on your y-axis you have speed, right? And so ये आपके speed time graph है. So the graph obtained is called a speed time graph. If you plot speed on x-axis, oh sorry, y-axis, and you plot time on x-axis, that is called a speed time graph. So it provides a way of solving motion problem, right? You can define an entire, let's say आपकी कार ने accelerate किया पहले, then आपकी car is moving with constant speed, then you saw a break, let's say you saw a bump, you slow down your car, so उसकी velocity speed decrease हुई, then you basically move at a constant speed of let's say 10 meter per second, right? So it describes the entire motion of the car of an object using graph. So it's pretty simple to describe using graph, ठीक है? So in figure, let's start with the discussion of different type of graphs now. So in figure 1.2.2, which you can see over here, you see it's a horizontal straight line, right? X y पे speed है, x पे time है. So this is stating के बस एक कार ही है जो basically which is moving at a constant speed, right? That's simple, right? Understandable. So values for the speed of the object at first 1 second can be read from the graph and keeping a table 1.21. So हुआ क्या है, इन लोगों ने let's say एक गाड़ी के अंदर लोगों ने एक सेंसर लगाया, ठीक है, which is noting the speed of the car at every 1 second gap, ठीक है. तो उसने सेंसर ने उनको डेटा भेज दिया on a computer, right, and stored it over here in a tabular form. Then इस डेटा को मैंने प्लॉट कर दिया using Excel or any software. Then I basically obtain this particular beautiful graph, which is a constant horizontal line, which is stating that throughout this particular time interval, my car was moving with a speed of only 20 meters per second throughout. Okay, imagine you are driving at highway, but let's say you're learning how to drive it, so you're driving at pretty slow speed. Okay, so now let's start different scenarios, right? So this is scenario number 8. So what is this explaining? Imagine I'm talking about only a car, right? Let me just draw my Bugatti. Okay, so I have told my kids, Mashal and Hamza, okay, I was taught by a professional artist that was Picasso, right? So now I'm telling the secret to you, Ryan. So keep it a secret, right? So imagine this is a car and yeah, okay. So you wanted to say something, Ryan?
No.
Okay, done. ठीक है. So this is moving in this direction and इसका data सारा record करके हम plot in different graph, right? So up, let's say, let me call this car Paro, right? My car name is Paro. Okay, it's the Bugatti model, but I call it Paro. So now Paro is driving, and the data for this Paro is plotted over here, this scenario. So what is this scenario representing? Raise your hands. Who want to speak up first? ये मैं को बता चुका हूँ literally. I just want to reiterate.
सर गाड़ी कांस्टेंट स्पीड पे जा रही है.
Yeah, okay, so the car is moving at constant speed. This is the example of constant speed, right? We have also learned one more thing कि इसका slope क्या बताता है हमारा? So what is the slope का formula? Slope is gradient that is changing y upon changing x, right? And यहाँ पे y पे हमारे पास speed है and x पे हमारे पास time, right? So if I take any 2 points, let's say if I take point A, which is 0, 20, if I take point B, which is 5, 20, right? So इसका changing y क्या आ रहा है? Changing y क्या होगा? That would be 20 minus 20, right? Changing y is 0. ठीक है? So if you have the formula slope का, so if you have numerator upon anything, ठीक है, delta t जो भी है, that would be entirely thing will be 0, right? So your acceleration is 0 at the, ठीक है? So you want to find out two things from this graph. First of all, scenario कौन सा है? car is moving constant speed. And what is the acceleration of the car at this moment? So it's 0 meter per second, right? Does that make sense? I hope it does, right? If it doesn't, raise your hand or talk out, right? Then we have case number two. Okay, the similar car which is called Paro is now again is driven at a different condition, right? So now we have this and उसका मैं data को मैंने plot किया I obtain this beautiful graph. ठीक है. This states के this states the following condition. ठीक है. This was the Paro. Now this became pretty huge. Imagine मेरी Paro बड़ी हो गई है, right? It has grown by 2 minutes, right? This is point P, ठीक है, and this is point Q. So at point P, when my car cross point P, तो मेरे पास एक बंदा खड़ा हुआ है speedometer लेके, right? It's noting the speed of my car. So the speed, initial speed is coming out to be 20 meter, right? When it crossed point Q, the final speed came out to be, this is the speed given to you, that is 40 meter per second. And during this interval, P से Q, it took how many seconds? It took 5 seconds, right? This is a scenario which is plotted over here. ठीक है. So अब this scenario explaining that my Paro is the name of the car, right? Not some formula or some theorem. Don't say sir ने पढ़ाया था Paro theorem पढ़ाई थी हमने. ठीक है. Just Paro is just a name, right? Hypothetical name of the car. So Paro is moving with uniform increasing speed. Or you can also say K Paro is moving with uniform, not uniform, constant acceleration. Let me focus on this term. Constant acceleration, right? So let me just explain why did I said constant acceleration. Okay. So if I want to find out the acceleration of this graph, again I will take 2.8. If you want to find the slope of a straight line, you take just 2 points. Then you apply the formula of slope, that is change in y upon change in x, right? Point P का क्या है हमारे पास? It's 0, 20. What is my point Q? My point Q is 5, 40. And find the slope. Slope will give you acceleration, and that is the formula, that is change in velocity upon change in time. That is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by, ठीक है, चेंज निकालना तो वेलोसिटी का, तो फाइनल वेलोसिटी जब इनिशियल मास करेंगे यू गेट द चेंज ऑफ वेलोसिटी एंड डिवाइड बाय टाइम टेकन, राइट? हाउ मच टाइम इट टुक टू मूव फ्रॉम इनिशियल वेलोसिटी टू फाइनल वेलोसिटी. तो आपको सारे पॉइंट्स दिए मैं, तो यू हैव द फाइनल वेलोसिटी दैट इज 40, you have the initial velocity that is 20, and the time taken to move from these 2 points is 5 seconds. So it's 20 upon 5, that is 4 meter per second. So this acceleration is constant throughout this motion up till 5 seconds. आगे मुझे पता नहीं आगे क्या होता है. Till this graph, this is a scenario that the car is moving with constant acceleration. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up or just say yes.
जी सर.
Okay. Ryan,
यस सर.
Vishal.
Yes, sir.
But now we have an interesting scenario. It's everything on mind now. Okay, I can see a thumbs up also. That's good. So now this is something interesting, right? So इसके अंदर we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 scenarios, right? So I can give you a graph in your exam. Okay, complex graph. I will say okay, now explain every interval of the graph, right? So we have 4 intervals over here. ठीक है? The first interval is OA. The second interval is AB. The third interval is BC. The fourth interval is CD, right? So you want to explain what is happening between OA, what is happening between AB, what is happening between BC, what is happening between CD. right? And you let's say now get the again we have paro. ठीक है. So we have the condition specified. We're talking about only paro. ठीक है. यहाँ पे तो लोगों ने लेबल किया हुआ है, राइट? आई विल नॉट लेबल द थिंग्स ओवर हियर. ये कांस्टेंट एक्सेलरेशन है, ये डिसेलरेशन है, ये कांस्टेंट स्पीड है, ये रेस्ट पर है, ठीक है. So let's try to now explain them in verbal way such that it makes sense to all of you, right? So whenever you're explaining, make sure कि you visualize कि जो आपका बंदा आपके response पढ़ रहा है, he is a layman, right? He doesn't know anything. So you should explain such a way कि it makes sense to everyone, right? You should not just say कि acceleration. I know it is accelerating, right? How it is accelerating, ठीक है? So let me insert an empty page and let me take this picture and let me decrease the size of this picture so that we have it in mind कि वो किसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग, right? So let's talk about these four stages and let's see कि what are we dealing with, right? So let's talk about the first stage, that is OA. ठीक है. So what would you edit over here? कि it is the car is, oh, let me just keep it car. The car is moving with uniform increasing speed, right? Since the speed is increasing uniformly, therefore by using following formula that acceleration is changing speed divided by changing time. So this comes out to be basically what? Constant. Right? मतलब this will give you a single value की 3 मीटर per second square, 4 मीटर per second square. ठीक है. Example you get 4 मीटर per second square, right? You get a constant value. Constant मतलब एक नंबर आएगा. ठीक है. 4, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. ठीक है. Therefore the car is moving with constant acceleration. Does that make sense? How defining every segment of the graph?
जी सर.
ठीक है. If it does not, you can stop me over here. I can repeat, right? Okay. So now, similarly, I'm going to duplicate the slide. Not duplicate. I'm going to insert an empty slide. And let's copy this. Now we have the section AB, right? इस सब हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, राइट? पहले ये वाला पार्ट हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. दिस इज द सिनेरियो. कांस्टेंट स्पीड वाला पार्ट हम ये लिख चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. दिस इज द सिनेरियो. तो नाउ वी कंबाइंड सिनेरियो. ठीक है. Let's talk about the section number 2, that is AB, right? What is happening over here? ठीक है. The car is moving with constant speed, right? Therefore the car is not accelerating, right? So acceleration is not accelerating. That is, acceleration is 0 meter per second square. Okay. These things this thing this speed is also known as top speed. of the car. ठीक है, अब ये टॉप स्पीड का फिनोमेना हमारा आएगा, but remember कि this is called top speed, right? Whenever your velocity is constant, right? This is called the top speed. So imagine you have a paro over here. My paro का मोड खराब हो गया. This is your paro over here. Let's say this is the headlights, right? And this is moving in this direction, right? So this is, let's say, the forward engine force, right? Fe, and this is the backward friction force. This is a resistance force, and we call it Fa, right? So if you recall the Newton's second law, we will discuss this out in dynamics chapter. I'm just basically giving you a taste. ये top speed क्या होती है, right? This top speed. What is this top speed? So you know the Newton's second law formula, Kf equals to ma. यहाँ पे जो force आती है, that is the resultant force, right? And how do you find the resultant force? Basically do वेक्टर एडिशन, राइट? अगर लेट से एक फोर्स आगे है, एक फोर्स पीछे है, तो यू दोगे, यू डू व्हाट, यू डू फॉरवर्ड फोर्स माइनस बैकवर्ड फोर्स, राइट? एंड द रिमेनिंग फोर्स इज योर रिजल्टेंट फोर्स दैट इज एक्चुअली मूविंग द कार, राइट? सो यहाँ पे क्या होता है, इन दिस सिनेरियो व्हेन यू हैव कांस्टेंट स्पीड, योर Fe becomes equals to F, right? Therefore when you find resultant force Fr, that is Fe minus forward force minus backward force, तो ये आ जाती है क्या, जीरो.
सर एफ ई और एफ ए क्या होता है?
Fe इज द इंजन फोर्स, जो इंजन प्रोवाइड कर रहा है गाड़ी को मूव करने के लिए. Fa इज द ए रेजिस्टेंस फोर्स, जो ए इसको स्टॉप करने के लिए लगा रही है. ठीक है, दिस इज जस्ट क्विक रिवीजन, ये चैप्टर का पार्ट नहीं है. आई एम जस्ट एक्सप्लेनिंग ये टॉस यूनिफॉर्म कांस्टेंट स्पीड कैसे अचीव होती है गाड़ी के अंदर एक. ठीक है, सो नाउ इमेजिन इफ यू हैव दिस फॉर्मूला कि F रिजल्टेंट इक्वल्स टू एम ए. इफ दिस इज जीरो, जीरो इक्वल्स टू एम ए. सो इफ जो भी मास है गाड़ी की, 1000 kg, 500 kg, इफ यहाँ पे मास मल्टीप्लाई हो रही है, वहाँ पे डिवाइड हो जाएगी, राइट? सो एक्सेलरेशन भी लगी है, कम आउट टू बी 0 मीटर पर सेकेंड, राइट? दैट इज हाउ प्रैक्टिकली दिस पार्ट इज अचीव्ड, कांस्टेंट स्पीड वाला पार्ट, राइट? आई होप इट मेक्स सेंस. वी विल डिस्कस इट आउट इन डिटेल इन डायनामिक्स फॉर द नेक्स्ट चैप्टर, राइट? नाउ वी हैव द नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द ग्राफ, that is deceleration. ये कुछ नया पार्ट है आप लोग की. deceleration क्या होता है, we know what is acceleration, what is the deceleration, ये थोड़ा देख लेते हैं डिटेल में. Let me just again drop this picture over here. So now let's discuss about section BC, right? The third section, which is BC. What is happening over here? Imagine the scenario is over here. You have your paro, or if you want to call it a car, you have your car, and it see the bump on the road, right? Let's say bump, the driver sees the bump on the road, and then he applies the brakes, right? Then the driver has a thought, okay, apply the brakes, right? Then he applies the brakes. So what happens at point B, basically, let's say his speed was V, right? So initial speed was, let's say, V meter per second. And at this particular point, C, it come to a halt almost. It was bump, but it's a pretty huge bump, so you want to slow it down. At this particular point, his final speed becomes 0 meters, right? And it took some time from V to C, that is T. Okay, जो उसने time लिया from moving from V to C. Okay, that is some time taken, right? This is a scenario which is shown over here. ठीक है, so how do you read this graph now? How would you explain this graph to the user, to the examiner? That is as follows, right? You will do what? K. This section is showing what? The speed is decreasing uniformly, right? And the slope of this section is negative, which is describing what? The driver of the car saw a bump, saw a bump, and applied the brakes. Applied the brakes. So after decelerating, it comes to a halt. It comes to a halt. Halt means stop, right? Spelling में सही कर दूं. It comes to a halt, right? So अब what is the difference between acceleration and deceleration? If you see the formula, acceleration formula क्या होता है? It's final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time, right? So this is the formula, right? ये अगर आप देखें तो यहाँ पे क्या है? यहाँ पे आपके फाइनल स्पीड initial speed is u, final speed is 0. ठीक है? So it's going to be 0 minus v divided by time. So this answer is going to come out what? Negative, right? This answer is going to come out negative. ठीक है? So if your answer is acceleration equals to some negative number, some negative constant, ठीक है? Let me just write constant. जो भी नंबर आपका 1 2 3 4 5, ठीक है? So this is stating कि this is called deceleration, right? This is called deceleration, right? So deceleration क्या है? It's just you apply the brakes and car comes to a constant. Your velocity decreases uniformly and it comes to a halt. Therefore, you're decelerating, right? ठीक है? If the examiner asks you कि what is the deceleration of the car, you would write down the answer as, let's say आपका answer is car आ रहा था before, it was coming out to be negative 3 meter per second square. If the examiner asks you what is the deceleration, so you should write your answer like this. Okay, deceleration is 3 meter per second square. तो यहाँ पे नेगेटिव नहीं आएगा, ठीक है? Because deceleration is itself is saying कि car is slowing down, right? If you write negative with deceleration, so it will say कि it is not decelerating, it is opposite, it is accelerating, right? So if you write कि acceleration equals to negative 3 meter per second square, तो it is stating कि acceleration is negative. It means कि car is slow हो रही है instead of accelerating, right? Does that make sense? The negative का sign difference. Hamza, Mashal, and okay, Mashal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the section BC over here, and the last section, which is CD, it's pretty simple, as you can all see. Let me insert an empty page again, and let me duplicate this. Control C, Control V. So the last section is pretty easy to observe also. It's just stating कि भाई this is section number CD. So अब what is happening कि bump आ चुका है. The driver has applied the brakes and he has stopped the car, right? ठीक है? So this was the pumps over here. इसने गाड़ी यहाँ पे stop कर दी है. Let me just draw the pumps like this. Let's say there was some rain in Karachi, ठीक है? He saw huge water pools and he stopped the car, right? So यहाँ पे हो गया है कि the car, the speed is constant and 0, right? This is stating that the car is stationary. That is, it is at rest, right? That is as simple as it can be. This is how you would be defining spinning graph. This pops in your MCQ. This pops in your paper 2 theory questions. Okay. So everywhere you should be able to you should have very strong grip over here. Right? So how do we explain the graphs? Okay. Uh, any questions? Is it clear? Raise your hand. Thumbs up. Jalili.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Clear.
Okay. Ryan.
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is this let me just check how much time do we have. Time is up. Join the meeting again, okay? With the same link. Everyone, Jalli sir. Guys, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So everyone, let's continue now. So we are done with this huge rigorous example. ठीक है. So now you can also have this scenario over here. ठीक है. इसके लिए I'm going to tell you guys a trick. तो वो आप समझ लें and कैसे होता है वो भी समझ लें. Right? So these graphs are called increasing graphs, right? If you just pick up your right hand and curve it, right? Right hand while graphs are called increasing graphs. I'm going to explain in a while why. Okay. Just remember these are called increasing graphs. Okay. And if you take out your left hand and curl it out, okay, these are called decreasing curves, right? Decreasing curves. ठीक है जी. अब यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? यहाँ पे you don't have uniform increasing speed, right? You have non-uniform decreasing, right? Because हर time के interval पे you have different change in speed. Let's say इस point पे कितनी है हमारे पास speed? Let's say this is 17. Let's say this is 16 meter per second. At this point of time, you have what? At this second time interval, you have approximately this point over here. So it's let's say 22, right? So यहाँ पे increment कितना था? It was 16. यहाँ पे increment कितना है? It's 22 minus 16, that is 4, not 4. 4 plus 2, 6. ठीक है. So it's non-uniform, right? Uniform क्या होता है? हर time interval पे let's say 5 meters per second, 5 meters per second बढ़ते जा रही speed. Therefore you will have a straight line, right? Now this is non-uniform. ठीक है. So I hope this part is clear. Okay. So, अब what is the scenario explaining? So यहाँ पे if you want to find acceleration, right? First of all, this is example of non-uniform. Non-uniform speed, right? अब यहाँ पे how would you find the acceleration of a speed time graph? You want to find it using the slope, right? And how do you find slope? That is changing y upon changing x. But this formula applies to only straight line, right? Only linear graphs. यहाँ पे you have a non-linear graph. You have a curve. How do you find the slope of a curve? Can anyone tell me? How do you find the slope of a curve? Hmm. How do you find the slope of a curve? Anyone? किसी को नहीं पता? आप लोग grade 10 या 11 में हो दोनों सारे. So you should be aware by now. Okay, how do you find the slope of a curve?
सर मैं तो 9 में हूँ.
हाँ, you draw tangents. ठीक है. You draw tangents at different points. Let's say I want to find the slope at this particular point. 1 second में निकालना है slope. मैंने 0 सेकंड पे स्लोप निकालना है. मैंने 2 सेकंड पे स्लोप निकालना है. ठीक है. सो आई विल मार्क दोस पॉइंट्स एंड एट दोस पॉइंट्स आई विल ड्रॉ टेंजेंट्स. टेंजेंट्स क्या होते हैं? लेट्स से इफ यू हैव अ कर्व, you draw a line in such a way. Let's say if I want to find the slope over here, I will draw the line in such a way. ये थोड़ी गंदी हो गई है. Let me draw more slant ताकि clear हो जाए. So I will draw a line in such a way कि it touches at only this point and it passes away, right? So इसका distance approximately इसके distance same हो. ठीक है. That is a tangent, right? Then you take 2 points on the tangent, point A, point B. Then you approximate the graph or the slope. ठीक है. This would be x2 comma y2. This would be x1 comma y1. Then you can apply the formula of slope, that is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. ठीक है. That is how you find the slope of curves. So एक tangent आप बनाएंगे कहाँ पे? Over here. This would be sort of this. And then let me name this answer जो slope आएगा, that is m1. Then you find the slope over here at this particular point. This will give you a slope of m2. Then you find the slope over here. Let me change the color ताकि बहुत ज़्यादा mix हो गया. Let me make it now. Let me support equality. Let me choose purple. Let me now एक slope आपने निकाल लिया यहाँ से. ठीक है. This will give you m3, right? So if you just see and check कि अगर आपको याद है, you had multiple, let's say you have multiple lines like this. तो बहुत लाइट हो गया, दिख नहीं रहा. Let's say you have this color and let's say you have, ठीक है. So this is m3, this is m2, slope 2. इसका आंसर स्लोप की वैल्यू m2 है, इस स्लोप की वैल्यू m1 है. So कौन सा वैल्यू सबसे ज्यादा होगी? m1 ज्यादा होगी, m3 ज्यादा होगी, m2 ज्यादा होगी? So the steeper the slope, the steeper the line, तो greater the gradient or lesser the gradient?
Greater.
ग्रेटर होता है ना, राइट? जितना स्टीपर होगी आपकी लाइन, उतना स्लोप उसका ज्यादा होता है. ठीक है. ज्यादा क्यों होता है? बिकॉज अगर स्टीपर है, इसका चेंज इन वाई फॉर्मूला क्या होता है? चेंज इन वाई अपॉन चेंज इन एक्स होता है ना. स्टीपर मतलब आपका वाई बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है. ठीक है. वाई का चेंज बहुत ह्यूज है, राइट? सो इफ यू हैव अ ह्यूज न्यूमरेटर अपॉन अ स्मॉल डिनोमिनेटर, you will have a overall huge answer, right? That is why the steeper the line, the greater the slope. तो उसमें क्या है हमारे पास? m1 is greater than m2 and it is greater than m3. ठीक है. सो स्लोप 3 सबसे कम है, स्लोप 1 सबसे ज्यादा है. ठीक है. सिमिलरली यहाँ पे if you compare, m1 is the steepest tangent, then m2 is less steeper, m3 is less steeper. ठीक है. And if we go on further, the slope gets what? Less steeper and less steeper. तो यहाँ पे सेम सिनेरियो हमारे पास कंडीशन है कि m1 is greater than m2 is greater than m3. ठीक है. That is stating के the car is moving with an increasing speed. ठीक है. The car is moving with non-uniform decreasing acceleration. Does that make sense? Because आपके slopes की वैल्यू भी चेंज हो रही है throughout the motion. m1
ये डिक्रीजिंग एक्सेलरेशन क्यों है, इंक्रीजिंग क्यों नहीं है?
डिक्रीज हो रही है ना एक्सेलरेशन. इसका स्लोप m1 is the slope, so m1 is equals to acceleration, right? So पहले m1 बहुत एक्सेलरेशन बहुत ज्यादा है, फिर m2 हो गई बहुत कम, फिर कम हो रही है, फिर कम हो रही है, फिर कम हो रही है, फिर कम हो रही है. यहाँ पे if you draw another point, if you draw a tangent over here, this would approximately be a horizontal line. तो इसका जो स्लोप होगा m4, that would be change in y upon change in x. ठीक है. That would be approximately equal to 0 upon change in x. That would be equal to 0. So acceleration initially it was great, then it decreased and became 0. These are called decreasing graphs. Does that make sense? Does that make sense or not?
जी सर.
मशाल समझ आया?
यस सर.
Okay, Ryan, good. What about Mashal? Is Mashal confused?
Yeah, a little bit.
What is your question, Mashal? क्या समझ नहीं आया?
How is the speed decreasing instead of increasing?
Can you speak loudly?
It should be. So I am saying that how is the speed decreasing instead of increasing?
Speed
Because
decreasing
if
already.
the
As I wrote,
speed.
decreasing acceleration, not speed. Decreasing acceleration.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, speed to increase हो रही. The acceleration is decreasing, right?
got it.
Yeah. तो ये areas क्यों नहीं हो रहा भाई? कोई. Let me write down and write it cleanly and correctly, ताकि you can understand acceleration. ठीक है नहीं? So now we have 2-3 minutes. Let's finish this out. यहाँ पे बस this slide, let me finish this slide and then we will continue in the next class inshallah. ठीक है. So distance time graph, right? Now we have finished speed time graphs. We are moving towards now distance time graph. ठीक है. So any questions till now? No. ठीक है. I am supposing कि no questions.